October 25th, 1415, Northern France. Dawn does not arrive cleanly here. It seeps in, pale and unwilling, through a roof of low cloud. The rain that fell all night has worked the earth into a dark paste, and the field grips at your boots as if it recognizes the weight of men and metal and intends to keep both. Every breath tastes of wet leaves and cold iron. Somewhere in the woods a crow calls, and the sound feels less like a bird than a verdict. Across the shallow valley, France gathers like a jeweled tide. Armor glitters in the thin light, polished to a mirror shine. Banners lift and ripple, saints, lilies, lions, each stitched with the certainty of lineage. Dukes, counts, barons. The flower of French nobility packed shoulder to shoulder, confident enough to joke about ransoms before a sword is drawn. They are many. 25,000 rested and fed on home soil, 4 times the number of the men facing them. They think they have come to end a chapter in the 100 Years' War with one clean stroke. To them, this is not a battle. It is an execution already scheduled. Then you turn and see England. 6,000 men, and most of them are not knights. They are archers with long bows and rough hands, men who know wood grain better than heraldry. Their boots are muddy, their bellies hollow, their faces pulled tight by weeks of marching and sickness. Our fleur was a victory that tasted like rot. Disease followed it like a shadow, and the shadow has been biting ever since. Some cough as they stand in line. Some blink against fever. Their king is not spared. Henry V carries heat in his body, but his eyes are clear, cold stones in a river refusing to be moved. The night before had been a long drowning in rain. The English slept in soaked cloaks, if they slept at all. They had little food and less comfort. Across the valley, French nobles drank wine and ate roast meat, laughing beneath dry tents, polishing armor for the parade they expected by noon. In the English camp there were no songs, only the hiss of rain on embers and the quiet, stubborn sound of men refusing to collapse. Henry spoke plainly to his captains. "We may die tomorrow, but we will not die begging." At dawn, the field reveals its secret. It is not a wide plain, but a narrow throat between 2 dense woods, a corridor that will not allow an army to spread. The trees stand like dark witnesses, hemming both sides, turning the valley into a funnel. Henry forms his line there because the land leaves him no other honest choice, and because he senses what the French cannot. Numbers are loud, but terrain is final. The longbowmen drive sharpened stakes into the mud, angled forward like teeth. Behind them, English men-at-arms brace in a thin, stubborn wall. Opposite, the French arrange themselves in deep layers. Armored men dismounted in the front, more men-at-arms packed behind to push the weight forward. Cavalry on both wings eager to ride down the archers, and crossbowmen and levies waiting at the rear like spectators, certain they will barely be needed. For a long moment, nothing moves. The French are content to wait and let hunger finish the English. Henry knows waiting is simply a slower form of dying. He breaks the spell. Advance. The English pull up their stakes, step forward across slick ground, and plant them again closer. The movement is small in distance, enormous in meaning, an insult, a challenge, a refusal to shrink. French ranks shuffle, offended, and in that shuffle order loosens. Then the air changes. From the tree line hidden archers loose the first storm of arrows. The sound is a hard wind made of wood and iron. Shafts rattle off helmets and shields, slam into horses, crack against plate. Armor may blunt the point, but it cannot calm a frightened mount, and horses begin to scream and rear and fall. A fallen horse is a wall. A fallen rider is a knot. Chaos spreads like spilled oil. French pride snaps. A shout rises. Another answers. The word catches and runs. Charge. The cavalry on the wings surges first, and the field immediately betrays them. Hooves sink. Horses slip. Elegant momentum becomes a stumble. Arrows keep falling, and now they do not need to pierce plate to kill. A shaft to a visor gap, a tendon, an eye, a hit that panics a mount, a collapse that turns speed into disaster. Riders crash into their own infantry. The flanks meant to win the day dissolve into panic and tangled bodies within minutes. Then the main French line advances, 10,000 armored men stepping forward into the throat. The mud grips their greaves and drags at every stride. Arrows hammer them without pause. Most glance away, but the blows bruise and break and distract, and the occasional shaft finds the bend of a knee, the seam of a shoulder, the soft space under a lifted visor. By the time they reach the stakes, many are already wounded, breathless and furious. They collide with the English line in a grinding crash of metal and breath. The English men-at-arms brace and hold, and behind the French their second line presses forward, 6,000 more, eager to be part of glory. They do not reinforce the front, they crush it. The corridor becomes a vice. The French in the front cannot move forward because of stakes and bodies, and cannot move back because their own men are shoving them. They cannot swing properly, they cannot fall safely. Armor that is a fortress on dry ground becomes an anchor here, dragging men down into the sucking earth. A stumble becomes a sentence. A knee to the mud becomes a trapdoor. Henry watches the pressure build and does not waste it. He wants them packed tight. He wants their strength to become helplessness. When the moment ripens, the English archers change shape. They drop their bows and draw mallets, axes, knives, tools that need no room. Lightly armored, quick in the mud, they pour along the flanks and into gaps like cold water, finding cracks. They strike down at visors, at armpits, at throats. They hook and pull. They finish what the arrows in the ground began. Knights stumble, slip, and vanish face first into the earth. Drowned not by water, but by weight. The valley becomes a grinder. The woods keep the sound inside. Shouting, steel, the wet smack of bodies falling. Somewhere in the press, Henry fights close to the front, not shining, not theatrical, simply present. An iron point in a line that refuses to bend. At the rear, French crossbowmen and levies watch the disaster unfold. They expected a spectacle. They are seeing a curse. Nobles are dying like common men, their bright armor smeared black, their banners sagging. The choke point does not offer a heroic path forward, only a slow suffocation. Some hesitate, some turn away. The final line withdraws without ever truly entering the throat. By early afternoon, silence settles over Agincourt in the way silence settles after a storm has broken everything it intended to break. The numbers sound impossible when spoken. Thousands upon thousands of French dead, including the heart of their nobility, and the English losses, shockingly small. But the truth is brutal and simple. France brought a parade into a narrow, muddy corridor and expected the world to behave. Henry brought discipline, patience, and an ally the French never recognized. The field itself turned into a weapon. Agincourt is remembered as a miracle, but it was a miracle with mud under its fingernails. It was the moment pride learned that the earth does not respect titles. It was the day armor became an anchor, and it was the day a fevered king, standing in a rain-dark throat between two woods, turned a starving army into a legend the ground will not forget. As the sun sinks, the fog lifts just enough to show what remains. Broken lances like dead trees, helmets half buried and footprints filling with brown water. If you listen, you can almost hear the field exhale, satisfied. Later men will argue about tactics and arrows, but the oldest truth will stay quieter. On that morning, the land itself chose a side, and it chose without mercy.